The night was supposed to be a highlight for The Late Show, with Stephen Colbert promoting an exclusive interview with Elon Musk. The audience was buzzing with anticipation, expecting clever banter about space travel, electric cars, and Elon's unpredictable social media posts. When Musk walked out to a roaring applause, he greeted the crowd with a modest smile, shaking Colbert's hand before taking his seat. The early minutes of the conversation flowed smoothly like jokes, a few playful jabs about Mars colonization, and a brief discussion of Tesla's latest advancements. But beneath the surface, there was a tension neither man could quite hide. Stephen, known for blending humor with hard questions, seemed to be waiting for the right moment to pivot into deeper territory. That moment came sooner than anyone expected. Colbert began steering the conversation toward the controversies surrounding Musk's companies, particularly the recent layoffs and allegations of harsh working conditions. His tone, still polite, carried a firmness that hinted at sharper questions ahead. Elon responded with technical jargon and business logic, explaining the need for efficiency and rapid innovation. The audience reacted with polite nods, but Stephen leaned forward, pressing further. He asked whether Elon believed innovation was worth the human cost, referencing emotional stories from former employees. Musk's eyes narrowed slightly, his posture stiffening. His voice dropped a tone as he dismissed some of the accounts as sensationalized. Crowd's energy shifted, sensing a confrontation was beginning to take shape. Stephen didn't back down. He cited direct quotes, naming whistleblowers and journalists who had reported on unsafe working hours and management pressure. Elon interrupted, saying much of the media coverage was biased and agenda-driven. Colbert raised an eyebrow and calmly pointed out that multiple independent investigations had found similar patterns. The exchange grew sharper, with each man refusing to yield ground. Musk accused the media of creating villains out of innovators, while Stephen argued that leadership came with responsibility to protect people as much as to push boundaries. The once lively atmosphere now felt charged, every word carrying more weight. Even the audience, usually quick to laugh, was unusually quiet, eyes darting between the host and his guest. As the back and forth intensified, Musk's tone became clipped, almost defensive. He began talking over Colbert, insisting that his critics failed to grasp the scale of his vision and the sacrifices required to achieve it. Stephen, in turn, cut in to remind him that vision without compassion can be destructive. At one point, Elon leaned forward and said, "You're oversimplifying a complex reality." To which Colbert replied, "Or maybe you're overcomplicating accountability." The audience reacted with a mix of gasps and murmurs. The tension was now undeniable, and camera operators zoomed in, capturing every flicker of irritation crossing Musk's face. What had started as a late-night chat was becoming a verbal chess match in front of millions. Stephen then delivered the question that seemed to push Musk over the edge. "Do you ever wonder if your ego is standing in the way of your own humanity?" The words hung in the air like a challenge. Elon paused, his jaw tightening before replying. "My so-called ego is what's putting people on Mars, not keeping them stuck on Earth complaining about my tweets." The audience let out a collective ooh, sensing they were witnessing something combustible. Colbert, keeping his composure, countered with, "Maybe Mars can wait until the people building your rockets can afford to live without fear." That struck a nerve. Musk's smile vanished entirely, and his responses became sharper, with a visible edge of frustration. From there, the interview spiraled. Musk accused Colbert of ambushing him, saying he'd agreed to talk about technology and the future, not rehash tabloid-style critiques. Stephen calmly replied that holding powerful people accountable was part of his job. Producers in the control room were reportedly debating whether to cut to commercial early, as the atmosphere was becoming volatile. Elon's body language shifted, arms crossed, leaning back, his voice clipped 2 single pointed sentences. The warmth that had opened the segment was gone. Instead, every exchange felt like a strike and counterstrike. The air in the studio was thick with unease, yet no one could look away. The turning point came when Musk, visibly irritated, remarked, "If you're more interested in scoring points than having a real conversation, maybe I shouldn't be here." Colbert, without missing a beat, replied, That's your choice, but our audience came for honesty, not PR. The studio fell silent for a moment before a few scattered claps broke out. Musk's expression darkened. He glanced toward the side of the stage, as if weighing whether to stand upright then. Stephen continued speaking, but Elon abruptly shifted in his chair, muttered something under his breath, and gestured toward his team seated off-camera. What happened next stunned everyone. Elon removed his lapel microphone, placed it on the desk, in front of Colbert, and stood up. A couple of audience members gasped audibly, and cameras struggled to follow him as he walked toward the exit. Stephen, keeping his eyes on Musk, said, "Looks like that's a wrap," before turning back to the camera with a half-smile. The band, unsure whether to play, finally struck a few awkward notes as Musk disappeared behind the curtain. Within seconds, the feed cut to an unscheduled commercial break. The control room scrambled, the crew whispering urgently into headsets, unsure how to handle what had just unfolded by the time the show returned. Colbert addressed the audience briefly, saying sometimes conversations go places you don't expect. We wish Elon the best. Social media lit up instantly with clips of Musk's abrupt departure spreading like wildfire. Hashtags about the incident trended globally within the hour, and opinions were split. Some defended Musk, saying he was right to walk away from what they saw as an unfair ambush. Others praised Colbert for refusing to let the interview turn into a promotional segment.
Analysts
Debated whether the move would hurt or help Musk's public image. But either way, the confrontation had cemented itself as one of the most dramatic talk show moments in recent memory. In the days that followed, both camps remained relatively quiet. Colbert's team declined to elaborate beyond a short statement, while Musk tweeted only a cryptic message about better uses of time. Rumors swirled about whether he would appear on late-night television again anytime soon. Meanwhile, the footage continued to rack up millions of views, dissected frame by frame by commentators and fans. The incident became a symbol of the clash between media and hyperfile innovators, two worlds with different rules and expectations. Whether seen as a walkout in defiance or a calculated exit, Elon Musk being kicked off Stephen Colbert's show had already secured its place in pop culture, history, reminding everyone that live TV is never truly predictable. Stephen then delivered the question that seemed to push Musk over the edge. Do you ever wonder if your ego is standing in the way of your own humanity? The words hung in the air like a challenge. Elon paused, his jaw tightening, before replying, "My so-called ego is what's putting people on Mars, not keeping them stuck on Earth complaining about my tweets." The audience let out a collective ooh, sensing they were witnessing something combustible. Colbert, keeping his composure, countered with, "Maybe Mars can wait until the people building your rockets can afford to live without fear." That struck a nerve. Musk's smile vanished entirely, and his responses became sharper, with a visible edge of frustration. Then Stephen leaned in, his voice lower but sharper, and asked the question that sliced through the air like a blade. "Elon, do you ever stop to think that maybe your ego is standing in the way of your own humanity?"
No.
The crowd froze, as if they'd just witnessed a line no one expected him to cross. Musk's jaw clenched, his eyes locked on Colbert, and a heavy silence filled the studio. Then, in a voice both cold and defiant, Elon shot back, "My so-called ego is what's putting humanity on Mars, not keeping people stuck on Earth whining about my tweets." The audience erupted in a shocked murmur, a few gasps slipping. Through Colbert didn't flinch. He leaned back slightly, gave a half-smile, and replied, "Maybe Mars can wait until the people building your rockets can afford to live without fear." That line hit like a punch to the gut. Musk's smile vanished in an instant, his body stiffening, eyes flashing with visible irritation as the tension in the room spiked to a breaking point.